Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're not just crunching numbers or looking at modern trends. We are taking a full-blown cinematic journey back in time, exactly 100,000 years back, to be precise. We're going to explore what a single day looked like for an ancient human family living right in the thick of the prehistoric era. Our goal today is to completely immerse you in the absolute reality of our ancestors. We're going to look at the immense, frankly terrifying dangers they faced, the daily routines they had to master just to stay alive, and the incredible resilience they had to show just to see the sunset. It is an absolutely fascinating story of survival in dense forests, caves, and wild open wilderness. So, let's step into their world.
Imagine waking up one morning 100,000 years ago. No house, no medicine, no weapons like today, and danger waiting around every corner. A single mistake could mean the end of your life. I really want you to let that sink in for a second. This isn't some Hollywood movie script. This was the absolute baseline reality for human beings. We have to completely displace ourselves from the cozy comforts we know today. Think about it. There's no snooze button. There's no locked front door to keep the outside world away, and absolutely no safety net if something goes terribly wrong. The stakes of this era were quite literally as high as they could possibly be.
To truly grasp this reality, we've got to strip away everything we're used to. On one side, we've got our modern life, right? Sturdy houses, supermarkets packed with endless food, modern medicine you can get at the drop of a hat. But you step into the ancient world, and the contrast is just staggering. Picture a small group of hunter-gatherers waking up inside a temporary shelter made entirely out of sticks and animal skins. That's it. These structures offered almost zero protection against biting winds, swarming insects, or the elements. There's no refrigerator to grab breakfast from. They rely on foraging. There are no antibiotics in a cabinet. They rely on luck and extreme caution. It is a life of sheer vulnerability. You wake up in that shelter and you immediately know that your survival today is absolutely not guaranteed.
And the thing is, staying tucked inside that temporary shelter simply isn't an option. Their food supply is constantly running low, which means they inevitably have to head out to search for their next meal. And that means leaving the relative safety of their natural home. Every single journey outside carries massive risks. The moment an ancient human steps out into those dense forests or the vast open wilderness, they are instantly in peril. You can imagine the air is just thick with tension. Every rustling leaf, every snapped twig, every weird shadow cast by the trees could be a fatal threat. They are walking out into an untamed world, and they are acutely aware that they are definitely not at the top of the food chain.
Okay, let's dive into this because we're talking about sharing the landscape with literal apex predators. Ancient humans lived alongside unbelievably powerful, massive animals. Imagine stepping into the hunting territory of saber-toothed cats or giant prehistoric cave bears that completely dwarf the grizzly bears we know today. Packs of enormous wild wolves roamed those exact same hunting grounds. Without modern technology, firearms, or long-range defenses, our ancestors had to rely entirely on fire, some crude stone tools, and their own hypervigilance. Just imagine standing your ground against a towering prehistoric bear with nothing but a stone-tipped spear and a burning branch. It's a level of raw, visceral danger that is just impossible for us to fathom today.
But here's the kicker. It wasn't just the wildlife trying to take them out. It was the earth itself. Our ancestors faced some of the most extreme environmental challenges imaginable. We are looking at freezing ice age winters, severe storms that could completely wipe out a camp in a matter of minutes, devastating droughts, and totally unpredictable natural disasters. The environment was just utterly unforgiving. During the Ice Age, simply finding enough warmth to survive a single night, that was a daily, high-stakes matter of life and death. The sudden lightning of a storm or the bone-chilling cold of winter wasn't just an inconvenience. It was an active, immediate threat to the entire family's survival.
So, with extreme weather freezing you out and massive predators constantly surrounding you, how do you even survive? Well, you must hunt. But this was an incredibly high-stakes gamble. It was easily one of the most terrifying activities an ancient human could ever undertake. Now, a successful hunt? That was a massive victory. It provided vital protein and energy to keep the group going for days. But a failed hunt, that meant going to sleep hungry, risking starvation as the bitter winter closed in. And even worse, it often led to severe, life-threatening injuries while trying to take down a desperate, powerful animal. The hunt was the absolute climax of their day, and it was completely essential for the group's continued existence. Actually, executing this crucial task required absolute, mind-blowing precision. It was this tense, fluid story of survival. First, it meant reading the environment like a book to track the animal, noticing a single bent blade of grass or the faintest impression of a hoof in the mud. Second, it required moving as a seamless, completely silent team. And finally, they had to strike using those primitive stone tools and weapons we talked about. They couldn't just overpower a massive beast. They had to outsmart it, outcoordinate it, and execute a perfectly timed ambush. A single misstep, one broken branch, could turn the hunters into the hunted in a split second. Cooperation wasn't just some nice idea, it was literally their greatest, most effective weapon. And when things went wrong during that hunt, the reality was terrifying. Because without antibiotics, a simple scratch could be deadly. This is a really stark medical reality we have to wrap our heads around. 100,000 years ago, there were obviously no hospitals, no modern medicine to fall back on. An injury that you or I wouldn't even think twice about today, a small cut, a scraped knee, a basic broken bone, could easily become infected. A scrape from a simple unyielding thorn could lead to sepsis, ending a life within days. The body's immune system was literally the only line of defense. Because of this, your margin for error out in that wilderness was exactly zero. Because of this totally unforgiving environment, there was no real childhood, at least not as we know it today. Even the absolute youngest members of the family had to quickly learn these vital skills just to stay alive. They needed to understand nature intimately from a super early age. They had to know exactly which local plants were safe to eat and which ones carried deadly toxins. They had to learn how to identify animal tracks and avoid predators at all costs. And above all, they had to actively pitch in and help the group survive. There were no long care for years of playing games. You were in the trenches, an active participant in the daily struggle for life, almost as soon as you could walk. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we actually made it through all of this. The secret answer lies in the internal strength of the group, the incredible power of community. Even though life was unbelievably dangerous, humans survived because they cooperated on a profound, deeply empathetic level. They shared what little food they had, making sure no one starved if the group had enough. They fiercely protected each other from predators and the harsh elements. And crucially, they taught vital, life-saving knowledge to the next generation, passing down techniques for tool-making and tracking. They were a deeply bonded unit. Without this intense level of social cooperation and mutual care, the human story would have just ended right there, in the ice and snow. So, picture this. Nightfall finally arrives. The ancient family, having somehow survived the apex predators, the unpredictable weather, and the totally exhausting hunt, finally gathers safely around a fire. The flames throw these dramatic, flickering shadows against the dense forest trees, providing this tiny, fragile little circle of warmth and protection against the terrifying darkness all around them. It is this highly emotional, cinematic moment of relief. They're safe, at least for now, resting shoulder to shoulder, listening to the wild sounds of the night. But even in this quiet moment of peace, they are already looking toward tomorrow, knowing it's just going to be another completely uncertain, dangerous day.
Ancient humans did not survive because they were the strongest creatures on Earth. They survived because they adapted, learned, and stood together. That right there is the whole shebang. We definitely weren't the fastest predators in the forest. We weren't the biggest. We didn't have the sharpest teeth, the longest claws, or thick fur to keep us warm. Yet somehow we endured. Every single modern human watching this right now carries the story and the literal DNA of those incredible people who survived the most dangerous days in history purely through extraordinary adaptability, sheer ingenuity, and unbroken unity. We survived the absolute most dangerous days in human history through teamwork. 100,000 years ago, standing together was literally the only way to endure the Ice Age and the predators. So the big question for us today is this: are we using that exact same cooperative spirit to survive the challenges of our modern world? Sure, we've got the sturdy houses, the overflowing supermarkets, and the advanced medicine now, but we still face massive, incredibly complex global challenges. Are we remembering the fundamental lesson of our ancient ancestors? Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today as we traveled back in time. I really hope this gave you a newfound appreciation for the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Until next time, remember where we came from.